So welcome back, guys. Welcome to Pokes and Jokes. This is what, episode 4?
Yeah.
Welcome back to episode 4. I'm here with my girl Jen Nolan, as usual.
Yo, yo, yo.
I love Jenny. And we've got a very special guest today. My girl, Deidge. Welcome.
Hello.
So good to have you. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on this.
Of course.
So we've all just come back from Brighton, haven't we? We went to Brighton Convention this weekend. How's everyone feeling?
I was buzzing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It was a good show for you?
It was good. I was not sure what to expect, but I was definitely pleasantly surprised with how busy it was, how big it was, and like just really cool people.
Yeah, Brighton's a sick vibe. It's got very good
Yeah.
energy. Yeah. Did you like the Femme Room?
I did, and like I'm glad I finally got to walk around on the last day because it very much was different. Like you could feel the energy. I was telling Jen, I was like, like I went out there, it was kind of like, this is big, and it's like kind of
it was a bit
too
crunchy.
much stimulus and
Yeah, it is. It's a very overstimulating. I think that for me, that's why I love the Femme Room so much, because it was able to make something a bit more intimate in the convention. Yeah. And a lot of us feel very overwhelmed and extremely drained after working those conventions, especially in those big rooms,
Right.
So yeah, having a more intimate kind of vibey setting, I think makes a big difference.
Yeah, and I think the music was a big, honestly, because there wasn't really, in such a large space, well, I mean, like in that large space, even when they do play music at conventions, it's echoey and it's like a lot of reverberation, and you don't really, and nobody's DJing good. Nobody's playlisting like you.
Yeah. Well, the people don't really play stuff that you can like pop your pussy to.
No.
Like,
there's no bops happening.
Nah, not at all.
There's no happy medium usually in conventions. It's either like real dated shit like rock and roll music, or like really intense like psytrance.
Like dark techno. Yeah.
I worked a convention and all the booths were like made of metal and those hard boards, and the room this DJ was playing this like psytrance set, and it was so loud, like the booths were like rattling. It was so
psytrance is just like not a vibe.
It's not the vibe.
It's not the vibe at all. No.
Well, last year we had a DJ and it was really fun, but it was like, I think this year I was like, let me not overstimulate people with the hype too early on. So I was like, first day, me and Jen were thinking, like, what vibe should we start to? So we just
did some like a bit more, R&B kind of vibes that we listened to in the shop.
The throwbacks on day one were good.
Yeah, because everyone can get down, have a sing along, have a group.
Dude, it was like,
and then we kind of elevated it from there. Do you know what I'm saying?
You were like 2 songs in, Drew Hill. I was like,
yes. I'm just here to cater to you, Deidge.
I know. Well, you speaking to my old ass with stuff I was listening to in junior high.
So you've been tattooing for like 25 years?
It's my 25th year. I know it sounds crazy when I say it out loud.
Yeah, girl, that's crazy. Well, it is.
That's amazing.
You don't look like you could be tattooing for 25 years.
Not at all.
Since I was 2. No, I'm just kidding.
So where did you start your tattoo journey?
I started my tattoo journey in Southern California, in Fontana, which is like nothing to brag about. It was the shop where I gotten tattooed at, and basically I had already graduated college. I was working a regular corporate job, bartending on the weekends, and begging the owner to apprentice me, and he said, we don't apprentice people here, basically giving me a lot of hard ass. And then...
Well, you're a girl as well, so I can only imagine how fucking tough it must have been 25 years ago.
For sure. But, like something that I don't put out there very often is like I also got pierced back then, and I weaseled my way into tattooing apprentice by hooking up with a piercer that worked there, learning to pierce first, and then having to like manipulate my way into an apprenticeship, all while still working a corporate job.
It sounds like quite a familiar story for women in tattooing. Quite a lot of women have had to become body piercers. Not had to as anything, to be ashamed of, but it seems a lot like you're less likely to get taken seriously just as a tattooer straight away rather than doing the piercing route first.
I think, for me, piercing was a way to get into the tattoo shop, and I just knew that I wanted to be in that environment. It wasn't so clear to me that I wanted to be a tattooer. I just knew I wanted to be in this environment, and having a tattoo apprenticeship was like, I was laughed at, you know. But I managed to get a piercing apprenticeship, just like you, with this woman, and I knew that like I would want someday to be a tattooer, but she nurtured me and she taught me to be a really good piercer. But the men in the shop that I worked at, who were the tattooers, when I kind of expressed that I wanted to tattoo, that was fucking laughed at, you know. And they're like, you know, they'd say things like, you're a girl and a piercer, what the fuck business do you think you've got being a tattooer?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think you're right, it's like a way to get into the space, but it might not necessarily be
leads you to...
Yeah, like Deidge was saying, she had to kind of manipulate her surroundings to make it the best for what she could to get where she wants to be.
Yeah.
And especially when there's like 25 years ago, it must have been way more intense. But like when there's all these like dudes who control the space and they don't want to, you know, they might think it's like a novelty to have a chick tattooing in their studio, but at the end of the day, they don't want a woman in there surpassing their ability to tattoo.
As
their ego
often do.
Yeah, well, their ego and pride would not be able to handle.
And back then in that time as well, like there was, I'd say 10, 12 known tattoo shops like in a greater Southern California area. It wasn't like every other block like it is now in some places. So it was like there were very few female tattooers in any shop back then.
So you were literally one of the only ones when you started out, probably?
I mean, I knew of a couple, but it was just not anything like it is balanced today, I feel like, at all. But definitely, you know, be strong-headed.
Well, I can't imagine you taking no for an answer, to be honest, Deidge.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like I had asked, and then I continued to get tattooed there and get pierced there, and the piercer was just like, I mean, such a scum. Like in hindsight, you know, now I like laugh at it because I was just like,
well, yeah, especially
the ultra creep, and I was like really young. I was like, you know, 22, you know, and
this
like,
is something that comes up a lot. We talk about, so especially when you're young and you're getting in the industry and you're looking up to these people, and they're this authority figure that you want to learn from. It's so easy for them to take advantage of that, you know? Like, essentially it's like grooming to a degree, you know? Like, he is specifically seeking out these, like, because I see it all the time, guys seeking out young female apprentices, and they always end up being their girlfriend, or whatever, do you know what I mean? And it's off-key. But when you're young, you don't know your boundaries, do you know what I mean? You don't know what's healthy, what's right or wrong. You just want to be there.
Right. It definitely, but it wasn't like an all bad vibe. It was just like I had to be a piercer for a bit, and that wasn't at all anything that called to me. So I felt very like
unfulfilled
and like almost like fraudulent, almost, you know, like inauthentic. That's really more the word, not fraudulent, inauthentic. I didn't enjoy piercing people. I'll say that feeling that, you know.
I fucking love it.
I know you do. That's why I'm like, I don't. That pop, you know, that pop. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes when I'm in the mood, I'm like here trying to coerce anyone. I'm like going up to Charlotte and saying, do you want a piercing? Do you want a piercing? Do you want a piercing? I just get in the mood. I'm like, but yeah, I know what you mean. Like, you're either built for it or you're not. You're either passionate about it.
Right. Like, I don't mind being pierced. Been pierced all over my body. It doesn't, like, obviously that's how I hooked up with the piercer. I was like, I got pierced before I got tattooed there. You know what I mean? It's always like, that's the gateway drug. Like, bullshitting piercings.
Yeah, no, for
it's
sure.
The gateway drug to tattoos.
For sure.
I think it's it's quite a testament to your drive though, that you would just like do something and put up with it, that you don't even, it's not your cup of tea, it's not necessarily what you want to do, but
it's a means to an end.
Yeah, you see the long game and it's like, okay, this guy's a scumbag. I don't want to do this, but I know that if I just be persistent and I be pushy and I just keep smashing it, then eventually I'm going to get what I want, you know. And it's kind of frustrating as a woman in any industry that you do have to grit your teeth a lot more than, you know, our male counterparts, especially in any creative industry. You've got to put up with so much bullshit just to get a little bit of the same recognition or time invested in you.
Absolutely.
But I guess that's what makes us such bad bitches at the end of the day as well.
100%. Definitely makes us more resilient.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what was your tattoo apprenticeship like?
Once I got it, once I was like, you know, because I just would be in their space and in their face with like drawing, painting, you know, and like asking questions, being cool, like they'll regret telling me, you know, they'll see I'm the shit, you know, like that was kind of always what my intentions and whatnot were. So it was good, you know, lots of grunt work, lots of thick skin development, and but also because I was, you know, working a regular job and then hauling ass after work to that, and then like getting done at like midnight and then having to go to work the next morning at like wake up at 5 a.m. It was like, you know, it led to some substance abuse, if you will. You know, I started utilizing stimulants, you know, and that added a whole nother hurdle into the mix. And, you know, that was when it started getting a little
wild,
a little like, you know, yeah, I can just like the natural progression of like utilizing. I mean, I was doing meth, like no stimulants, like am I giving the changes? I was just having a little, I was properly doing some meth, you know, like.
I don't think you can really dabble in that, right?
Nah, I mean, it's like
you have it all in.
Up and put it down.
Yeah. Meth, I'm partial. I'll have a little too. It's like, you're right. You're not in it.
Yeah, it quickly becomes all in. You know what I mean? And that just, you know.
I think as well, when you're people like us, we don't do things by halves. So if we're gonna smoke some meth, then
true story though. Like I remember the first time I did meth, I was with a friend I'm still friends with to this day, crazy enough. But I was really angry at all the cocaine I had done at uni, you know, in school. I was like, man, I wasted a lot of money just to stay awake to study. I could have done this on the cheap, you know. That was what I thought. But it's
so much cheaper.
So much cheaper, and it's so much stronger. It's like, what the fuck? But yeah, that was what I thought. But yeah, it quickly was like a bit of my persona for a few.
So were you using drugs all the way through your apprenticeship?
No, I wasn't. I was only using them about like the last 6 months of my apprenticeship. Okay. You know what I mean? Like and I'd say. Like so the crazy thing was that like, okay, so my mentor owned 3 shops, and the location where I learned at was where he worked, because it was closest to his house. He just owned the other ones, but he had people that ran them. There was no room for me to work once my apprenticeship was over at that shop, like, because there was a small location and it only had the piercing room, the like lobby / desk, and then 3 like pretend booth rooms or whatever. And so there just was no space for me to work. So I had to go work at a different shop that he owned in a different like part of town and whatnot. And there was no, other than the shop girl there, it was just artists and no like managerial. And that was not good for somebody who is newly hanging out with meth and, you know, no longer under the thumb of my mentor. Yeah. So
you using at work and stuff?
I would go in the car away, but while I was at work,
the pipe in the tattoo station, like, this pencil should be dry now. I'm ready to go.
Have a smoke and it's not a Marlboro. No, that's not it. No, none of that. But yeah, so, but like, it just led to bad decisions. I'm gonna say that, like being awake for 3 days in a row, you just don't make good choices.
No, and you don't really, you don't make good choices, and you also just like not in touch with any point of reality at all. Especially by the third day, it's just like
psychosis is there.
It's basically just a shell of a human.
Yeah. I'd say that probably like my first 4 years of tattooing had major interruptions.
Because of drugs?
Because of things that come along with drugs.
Yeah, the byproducts of things.
The byproducts, go on little vacations. State
little
vacations.
We call it Her Majesty's Finest over here. Well, His Majesty now, innit, I suppose.
Oh, ain't it?
And just to clarify for anyone who's not sure what a staycation is, we're talking about you being in jail, right?
In prison.
So because there's the jail and the prison thing in America.
They're different.
We just you can get
you get remanded in custody,
but it's not like a jail and prison thing. It's not like a county jail where you get held until your trial or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like you get put on remand. You either don't make bail or you do. You're either eligible for it or you're not. But there's just prisons. Yeah,
it's just prison. Like it's all the same thing. I've always found that so interesting because a lot of people end up staying in jail for quite some time. Whether it's makes sense for them to prolong their trial date or
they can bail out. They can whatever. I've never once been able to bail out ever until many years later, but
I guess it's a lot of money, right?
Well, no, just like once you get in trouble and then you become on parole in the state of California, when you're on parole, you have to be on parole for 3 years once you've been released, and that's where you have to report, it's like probation, exactly. Yeah. It's like a little bit, sometimes stricter, sometimes less strict, depending on who your officer is, I guess. But I didn't take that seriously in the beginning, which is what kept fucking me over, is because I was like, I don't have to report. I don't have to not do drugs. She's not gonna test me.
But that's the delulu when you're on drugs, though, isn't it?
Big time. It's like the bullshit.
It's gonna happen to me.
For sure. And it's like, in hindsight, really in hindsight, 4 years ago, all the times I was locked up, my grandfather passed away one time. I didn't get to go to the funeral. I was super close to him. He taught me everything cool that I know. And then fucked off some more after that. And then a couple more trips. They were never long trips. It wasn't like I was shooting people. I was just doing some
reckless shit.
Bank fraud. I'm smart. I do have a degree, so I was doing some, white collar crime. I wasn't
high end shit.
I wasn't like robbing liquor stores or nothing. You know what I mean? I was like, let's form an LLC and buy a bunch of cars and sell them. I don't know.
Okay, bitch. I love that. But we do wild shit when we're young. Do you know?
I wasn't really thinking live past 25 or consequences are real, because jail is fun. For a bitch, jail is fun. There's no politics. Men, I ain't worried about getting stabbed. I
bet you were king of the wing, babe.
I wasn't king of the wing because it was like in high school, I guess. I was friends with everybody, and in prison, as someone who mastered the art of supply and demand,
you did all right.
I did all right, but it behooved me in that department to be friendly with everybody. So it wasn't like I went up in there swinging a big dick.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I'm saying? I had literally 2 fights in all of my entire incarceration trips.
Because you're too much of a fucking sweetheart, babe. They just fall for you.
I'm too smart for that.
Right?
I'm too smart for that. I will.
Was tattooing something that you used as a tool, in jail? Was it a means to an end?
I mean,
Did it give you like a place within the system of prison?
it did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And none of my crimes were ever really like violent or crazy. So in California, if you don't have violence on your record and you have a sentence of 3 years or less that you have to put out, you're able to have like it's called a gate pass. You're able to have a gate pass so you can go work outside of the prison. But you gotta wear like neon yellow outfit. You know what I'm saying? So
Like,
it wasn't
so when you do like picking trash up on the side of the street and stuff like
that's
that?
more of like in the city. I was in the central California area called Chowchilla, which is nothing around there but agriculture. So I got to pick almonds in the almond orchards.
That sounds all right.
It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then I was like, they really aren't tripping on us. Like, all we got to do is take our clothes off, squat and cough, put our clothes back on, go through a metal detector. Cool. I'm like, that's the road right there. That's the prison right there. I'm like, I'm talking like, 3 months of doing this. I'm like, I'm counting how many trees there are this way, how many trees there are that way. I'm like, this is a fucking grid. So then get a visit from a friend, and I'm like, hey,
Go to this almond tree.
No, I was like, hey, I need you to look at some mail I'm going to send you with some maps, but they're for, like locational, because I just didn't want to put too much, because they monitor mail in and out, whatever, but definitely would get nice, because it was a friend of mine who used to visit someone else that was incarcerated, and like they would do things for them, like a good trustworthy person from the streets. So she would just, give me things, and I was like the only tattooer in all of prison with color ink. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
So you were like a hot commodity then?
Well, yeah, once I got that like influx of like street goods that could fit in my coochie.
Yeah, this last
come back in.
So your friend would come like find like the almond tree.
Well, like she wouldn't leave me drops, but like leave them in a tree.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's like Shawshank Redemption.
Well, kind of.
Shawshank Redemption, he leaves a thing under the tree.
Well, no, that was yes, he left the thing under the tree in Shawshank Redemption, but that was not.
It's not quite the same
go back
thing.
into the jail with.
I forgot.
Yeah, that was afterwards. Like he left him something to like. So wasn't it money and like no? It was like. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
I watched it in a while, guys. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, no. I'm like, it was more like how Morgan Freeman was like, oh, you need a pickaxe, a small hand pickaxe, and he got him one. Remember, he was like, he could just get things in. And like there were other ways too. There were plenty of guards that could be paid and whatnot, but like that was it never felt like punishment to me back in the early first few times. And that's my point in saying all that about like having street goods brought in, like having money constantly put on my books because I was selling things and whatnot. It was definitely didn't feel like a consequence. And at the time, even though my grandfather had passed during that one trip in, and even though, I was missing out on family events and shit, like my brain was so checked out from things that mattered.
It's rewired to some.
It was rewired to some like hustle, like weird get away with it was really like what I could, like getting away with shit was my literal kink. I mean, fucking loophole is my middle name. And so, like that was it. And so because it wasn't ever consequential,
it was just
it never taught me that lesson. You know what I'm saying? And my last trip in, it did. My nan died. And like that fucked me up. And so I paroled that trip to a program. It was like a Senate bill, which is like a proposal from, I guess, the Senate. The senators of California proposed that if you complete a rehab program. You go straight from prison to the rehab program, and you complete that program, a 5-month stay at that program, then you can discharge parole. And the reason I kept going back wasn't because I kept committing new crimes and committing new felonies or new, charges, but it was because
You're just not keeping on top of shit.
because I was violating my parole.
Yeah.
And so that was like, oh, that's the ticket right there. Oh, and in that last trip, my mom decided I don't want to live in California anymore. And so she dipped. So when I got out that trip, it was like, where am I going to go?
Fuck. Yeah.
I'm here in this state and I can't go anywhere else. And my mom hightailed it back to Texas. So
yeah. It's kind of
so it was like a little bit of a series of
reality check
things that happened, but definitely a reality check. So I went to the program and I got kicked out.
For what?
For
That's the best reaction.
well, for having sex.
Oh, swear.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's
Right now with another person who's in the rehab program.
Well, the first time I got caught having sex with a girl, and then I was like you get caught doing anything else, you're fucking out.
Yeah.
And I was like, nah, I can't because I'm here by the state. It's not like I checked myself into rehab because I got.
And is it just people with narcotic like addiction, or is it like all kinds of addiction, like sex addiction, gambling?
No, that was drugs and alcohol for that particular facility for sure. But like what's crazy is that like everybody loved me at this program. It wasn't like I was there being bad. It was like I was there. I was everybody's fucking mate. I was like, everyone's cool, but like you're not allowed to communicate. If you're a female, you weren't allowed to communicate with the males. They called it non-com.
Are you on separate like wings?
Yeah, separate floors. And but then we would have to go into like community groups and like groups that like rehab.
Like NA, like NA meetings.
That's meetings, but groups like for like relapse prevention and family therapy groups.
Okay.
Or what triggers you, or we do biofeedback, or all sorts of things, and that would be integrated male and female, but. It wasn't like we could sit there and be like, hey, what's up? Oh, yeah, whatever. Like if we got caught doing that, we could get kicked out.
Yeah.
Like there's some strictness.
It's obvious as well if you're sitting there trapped in
Yeah, so, but then I got caught having sex with a guy. Like we were supposed to be having like a community group, and I was like, went to the bathroom and like met up on some other floor and, just doing some like just trying to get away with some more shit, like it'll manifest in other directions. You know how it is. Like, oh, I'm giving up smoking, and all of a sudden you got fucking biscuits in your teeth every day, and you're just like, fuck. You know what I mean? Like,
you just replace it.
Yeah, you're just replacing it.
But it's the same buzz. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, so I got kicked out, and I'm talking got kicked out like 4 months and 2 weeks. Into the fucking 5 months. So then it was like
back to prison.
No, not back to prison.
Okay.
No,
but just like out on your ass, basically for years.
Yeah.
Now you're under parole, man.
So then, but it was all right because other than that, I was doing everything perfect. Other than just getting my rocks off. You know what I mean? Like. I've been in prison for a minute. Like,
let me enjoy myself. Can we live?
I'm like, the girl was my roommate that I was fucking. She was a little horn dog. I didn't hit on her. She like jumped on me. It wasn't me. I was like,
she was a little horn dog. That is brilliant. Yeah.
I still know her too.
Oh
my God. I saw her one time though, like years later. I'm talking 15 years later, like literally sucking a dick in a car on Skid Row.
Oh shit, no on Skid Row.
I was walking with the girl I was dating, walking her to her apartment, and I just remember like walking, and I was like, oh, that bitch is sucking that guy's dick, and we're waiting at a stop. We're like waiting to cross the crosswalk, and I was like, and then she finishes and like gets up out the car. like right then, and I was like,
oh my, you know how to watch.
Well, it was like a matter of like 2 or 3 minutes. And
that's like a song.
Exactly. But yeah, anyways, she got out the car and she was like, Deidge? And I was like, what the fuck? I was mortified.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's a kiss.
No. I was with the girl I was dating right then, and she was like super square, super nut.
Yeah.
And she was just like, that bitch knows you? Like, what the fuck? I was just like, oh my God.
Did you tell her how
No, I told her, I was like,
she was
I gave her a change.
I knew, I was like, I knew her from rehab.
Bless her.
Rehab 15 years ago. So it's like,
So well, let's hope she's doing better now, eh?
yeah, let's hope.
So how long have you, like, I take it you're sober now, obviously.
Yeah, I have been, I mean, I'm California sober. I
Yeah.
guess I've never had an alcohol problem. I have been off of stimulants for 22 years.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, 22 years.
Because that's a hard one to kick as well.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't ever partake when I was incarcerated. So once I got out, it was like, why am I going to start that shit up again? You know, like, because I was...
done the detox, it's like,
Yeah.
once the mentality shifts. It's,
Yeah, I like sleeping at night. Like, honestly.
and every night as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, not just once a week.
Yeah. Not at stop signs anymore. Just like...
I'm good to go.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, God, cut a little nap at that stop sign.
Needed that,
yeah. Thank God I had the honking alarm clock to wake me up, you know? Oh, man. But yeah, that definitely... But so, like, I got kicked out and was, like, still stuck around. I still, like, showed up there, like, every day. And then, like, the director, like, the head of the entire facility was like, do you want to work here? And I was like, okay. And I did. And that entered my world of, like, working with addicts.
That's
like,
amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, and I believe in karma.
Yeah.
And so I did that for about, like, 6-7 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
I mean, it really was like, it started with just being like a technician is what it is. Like, you work with them, like, you facilitate groups, you know, whatever. And then I went to school. I started getting certifications to become a counselor. Eventually, I started working with people. Let me think how it all played out. Like, I was working at this place that was like anybody, like, more like assigned by the council for you guys, kind of a facility. That was like the place that I had gone through because, like, California State had sent me there. And so it wasn't a bougie place whatsoever, right? And so the pay was like according, if you will, like it was some like
you're not
state-funded
making
pay.
big money.
Nah, you're just making minimum wage.
Yeah.
Basically maybe 50 cents more. So a friend of mine who I knew from the streets, if you will, like I knew from like before I had, you know, gotten my shit together, if you will, and stayed sober. I was definitely sober from everything back then. For about 10 years, I was sober from every single thing. Before I like started smoking weed, I was never a pothead.
Yeah.
Ever. I didn't start really smoking pot until after being sober for a decade. But so,
Which
anyways.
is nuts to start with meth. And then, like, you just
Cocaine, no.
You start with cocaine,
I probably ingested 5 metric tons of cocaine in my life. I've almost literally died. I remember learning the hard way when I was a teenager. We got pulled over and had like 3.5 A-balls on us.
Damn.
And literally like a quarter ounce of motherfucking meth of cocaine. And I was like, oh my God, we're gonna go to jail. This is a lot of drugs. And I thought, I'm gonna have to eat this and just get it out of my shit later. And it wasn't in a balloon, it was in a Ziploc baggie, and I didn't realize that was gonna
Open.
chew up your fucking insides.
Yeah.
Shit, boy, what? So did you have to go to hospital then?
Yeah. Just about lost it there.
Jesus Christ. And how old were you when that happened?
I was about like 18.
Fuck me.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did some reckless shit when we were young.
Nuts. Yeah, like bananas, that part.
Yeah.
But so I was working at this, super cheap pay, good facility. Like, it was great, like, for people who really wanted to get sober, it was great. And actually lots of celebrities went through there randomly. And but then a friend of mine that also worked there, who I had known from previous to being there, she was like, hey, there's this celebrity rehab, some like Promises Malibu shit up here in the hills that I'm fixing to go interview for. And she got the job there and was like, they got one more position open, but it's for overnights. And I was like, I don't give a fuck. She's like, but the pay is like, I remember at the time, she's like, the pay is like $15 an hour. I was like, fuck yeah. It's like early 2000s. So, and meanwhile, during this time, I'm not tattooing at all. Like, the plan was always to like complete the program in 5 months and begin tattooing. But I was trying to somehow, I thought, if I can like work here, they'll let me off parole so I can go. I'm a mama's girl. I was like, I just want to go be where my mom is, like.
Bless.
And so, but I work there. I get this job at this other place, and I literally start babysitting celebrities and working at it.
Recovery.
Oh, or who were trying to like, get through filming of the last season of a sitcom or go on tour so that they, it's like they can't get insured for their gigs if they're wasted and almost dying on set every day.
So you're like there to basically hold them accountable and keep them sober?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like hired from...
That must have been fucking intense. Especially for celebrities.
Yeah.
Because celebrities are like usually surrounded by yes men anyway, so it's like they're not used to being held accountable or made to do things they're not prepared to do. So that must have been tough.
Tough, but the pay was really good. Once I got into that, and I don't give a fuck, I get paid. Yeah, man. Got into that was pretty cool. It was definitely an interesting task in my life. It was definitely, I felt like if I work with these people, there's plenty of regular people that I worked with at the facility. I wasn't always on a sober companion gig. So, but when I started working up there at the overnights, I realized I can tattoo now. So I would tattoo and work overnight shifts.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Because this is a really chill place, and I had a partner, so we'd do the first 8-hour shift. We'd do the first 3 hours together, and then a 2-hour nap and a 2-hour nap. So I would, we would both you can sleep now, I can sleep.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like.
It wasn't like it was just awake.
It wasn't like all night and then I'd go and work and and then I would sleep a little bit when I'd get off, and then I would tattoo, and I would tattoo for 5-6 hours and rest a little and then go to work. So it was like. That's when I started, back into tattooing. But I would say that there was a good, aside from before I was mandated to go to the program, I would have 6-month gap of going back to work tattooing while also side hustle selling drugs or whatever. And it wasn't ever a consistent workup. As you know, when you're early on in your career, the growth and the development, it has to stay consistent. And so I think that I'd say my first 6-7 years of tattooing was very interrupted. And so stunted growth or just, inconsistencies were inevitable.
So after those years, it's when you really knuckled down, and it was tattooing. It was consistent for you, and that for me personally, because maybe not exactly the same, and I haven't gone to prison, and I've definitely had drug addictions, but I was addicted to downers, not uppers.
Right.
But still going through that transition of tattooing, where it was the decision of I'm going to keep taking drugs, even though I'm tattooing but there's all these inconsistencies in tattooing because my tattooing is being interrupted by the fact that half of the week I'm fucking coming down, or I'm strung out, or I'm just fucking a mess.
Trying to get well.
Yes. Or I'm just a mess. So it was like, when it finally clicked for me, because I went through drug-induced psychosis and I went through one of the worst withdrawal experiences of my life, and that scared me so much that I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
And like we were talking about earlier, like I think the way that we are wired up, we're very like hyper focused, maybe have addictive personalities, so it's just about focusing those hyper fixations onto healthy things. And that's when I made the decision that I know I love tattooing and this is what's going to save me, because if I don't become consistent with this, then
you just let yourself fall into oblivion.
Yeah, the other options are bleak. Yeah, do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And because it's like I think when you've got such a passion for something, because I'm a comedian and I love performing, and like for years I like not bothered to do anything with it because it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy that, oh, I'm not doing that, I'm shit. So then that validates you spiraling further and further into addiction, and then it's like, oh well, I can't do it now because I haven't been consistent for so long.
The shit we tell ourselves.
Exactly. And it's just, but it all kind of validates you just really being an addict in whatever the case is, you know, because like I've also struggled with drug addiction. I think most like creatives, it's always a thing that, you know, you can fall into because your mind's super active, you know.
Yeah, and it's just so prevalent in like every creative industry, like drugs are everywhere.
Absolutely.
So it's just one of those things. But yeah, for me, tattooing was like, it saved my life, and it became all consuming for me. And for the first, after I managed to like wrangle my addictions and actually like become consistent with work and not let all these outside things affect me as a creative, it was like I could hyperfixate on tattooing and become the best tattooer I can be. But that came with me working 6-7 days a week, you know, and like working 16-hour days. And that's one thing that I don't like. I have not been tattooing anywhere near as long as you. I've only been tattooing for 14 years, but the mentality of tattooers nowadays, I feel like, is so different. And there's some real pros to the evolution of the new generation of tattooers, but one thing that I personally find hard to struggle with is the fact that people just don't want to work. And I'm like, you need to like, this is a lifestyle, you know. It's like,
right,
if you're gonna tattoo, like if I'm gonna tattoo like I took drugs. I'm gonna go 10 out of 10. I'm gonna go for the gold star first
for
practice.
sure.
Do you know what I'm saying? But I don't know if like that's really the mentality of tattooing today, and that's one thing I miss, I guess, is being
the hustle. Because
I'm out here hustling all day, every day. Do you know what I mean? But sometimes it's frustrating because I found myself in situations over the years, especially with people coming through Femme Fatale, of like them not having the same work ethic as me, and I just don't understand why people don't want to.
Like, I'm gonna go on holiday for 30 days, and not really.
Or I'm gonna work 2 days a week, and that's enough for me, and that's gonna make me an amazing tattooer. And I'm like, no, bro, you've been tattooing for 2 years. Like, you need to be doing this every single day. You need to be going and traveling the world, finding connections with other communities, other tattoo communities around the world, like, because it's so beneficial. Like, I became so much of a better tattooer because I came to America and I met you lot, and do you know what I mean? I got to spend time around these elders of tattooing that just changed my whole perspective.
Absolutely.
And to see how other people work is so, so important.
Absolutely. And I can say that I feel like when I don't tattoo consistently every day, or if I have more than like 2 or 3 days gap in tattooing, and I've done that like either by design or on accident, I will be like, who wants a tattoo today?
Yeah,
I'm like, it's not about the money. It's about like, I want to
keeping it sharp.
I want to keep my skill set sharp, you know.
Yes.
Like,
and this creative outlet is important to me. It's therapy for me. I need this, you know.
Well, and like making people stoked is really part. Like, you know, the level of like, wow, that person let me give them something they'll wear with them forever, you know. And I don't think that I don't think that is probably what tattooing was about for me. You know, whenever I decided to no longer work in drug and alcohol rehab, I think it was in like 2012 when I was like, I can't do the toggle anymore of like, oh, I've got to go on tour with this person in this band and it's like an international tour and cool, I get $2,000 a day to the head for a month straight, which is nice. It's nice to have consistent money that I don't have to go wrangle up, but like my soul felt empty.
Yeah,
my bank account was full and my soul was empty, and I was like, I had a nice stack, and I was like, I purposely smoked some pot at a concert after, like on a break, smoked some weed, and then was like, I no longer want to be in sobriety anymore. So I quit working in rehab, and I have smoked pot probably ever since. And like, why I started smoking pot was because I was taking a lot of medication for, like, I have ADHD, and I was taking medication for that, and I was taking medication for like anxiety too, and so I was on a bunch of different like psych meds and whatnot. Just like, but they were prescribed. But I was like,
yeah, but like ADHD medicine is an upper, anxiety medication is a downer.
Yes, and
they're
so
super addictive, you know.
Absolutely, and I was just like, man, and I was talking to my doctor, and I was like, I really just don't want to take these, but I know I have focus issues and whatever. And she was like, you know, it's almost like you could solve all your problems with cannabis. And I was like, and because I'm from California, it was legal, etc.
And doctors are just more open-minded and
well, and I go to a female, like a nurse practitioner, and she's kind of hippy-dippy, you know, a little bit, but she's still a doctor or whatever. She can still write me a prescription, but she was definitely like, too bad you're sober. And I was like, well, I've never smoked pot really. I mean, I have, but it's never been like a problem. Or it's never been my thing, you know. I've also never really drank too much.
Yeah.
Like, I'm truly one of those people who's like, I can have 2 cocktails and be done, because guess what? I don't feel like shit tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that's
I'm
easy.
exactly the same. I'm not a drinker.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'll have a shot, but it's not gonna be 10.
yeah, for real.
But so yeah, I definitely smoked pot every day since 2012, though. That's real. That's real.
Yeah.
But you know, I still live, like, my brain, my principles are all still like I was when I was completely sober, as far as like, I feel like even more. I feel like I'm more spiritually sober than I was even then, but pot definitely helps me work. But also quitting working with people who are sick. Their souls are sick. Their energy is draining, and I just didn't have any more bandwidth for that. Like, I was feeling like anytime I would be back tattooing, it was like, this is like, I was happier. Huge pay cuts, especially 2009, 2010, like all that shit was like, it was a struggle because we work in a luxury, not a necessity field, you know. And it's like
tattooing seasonal as well.
It's super seasonal in Southern California, and then that's when it started becoming really saturated, and like multiplication of shops and whatnot. And it was like, it was definitely fulfilling, whereas the other work wasn't. I had to make that decision. Like, cut the money tree down, but fill myself up with what was really, you know, calling to me. And then, like, I can see that it was definitely then when it was like every day, that's what I do. I may not make much money this week, but I'm going to tattoo every day.
Yeah, at least you're fulfilled.
Yeah.
Like, your soul is nourished at the end of it, and you're doing what you want to do, and you're connecting with people every day. And yeah, like tattooing, it is a massive privilege to be able to tattoo and to be able to do it as long as we've been doing it. But it doesn't come without fucking hard work. Do you know what I mean? And you've put in that work.
And you got to roll with the punches.
100%. It is fucking the most transient industry. Like, it's always changing, like, especially now, it's growing so much, you know?
I mean, rapidly.
Right?
Beyond. I mean, like, I feel like I also wanted to, like, I worked my way to, like, I worked at all the shitty shops in LA in the Valley, and, like, finally wound up working at the shop I always kind of wanted to work at, and I was always scared to ask for a job there. And you know, even when I knew I was good enough, you know, over the years, and when I decided to leave LA 3 years ago, it was like, that's where I worked. I had exactly all my, like, goals checked off as far as, like, you know, what I wanted to do, and then I was like, no, I'm gonna have to go do it in another city, and, like, you know. But, like, the thing that I'm experiencing, you know, since leaving LA, and I think LA is experiencing it too. I don't live there anymore. So, but, like, it's these, like, millions of shops opening. It's like
London.
I'm sure.
So saturated.
It's beyond saturated, and then, like, saturated with people who don't tattoo worth fuck all. You know, like, that's weird. Like,
well,
people like, oh, I've been tattooing 2 years.
And they charge like £1,500 a day.
And I've got 9 people working for me.
Yeah.
Churning out a bunch of line work.
Yeah, well, it's like you can just buy a tattoo gun and just set up an Instagram and call yourself a tattoo artist nowadays.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Well, I think it's great that it's not gatekept anymore, because there's a lot of toxic elements. But again,
for sure.
But then it just opens up this whole other room for like mess, you know?
I understand the gatekeeping. I don't agree with it all the way, but 100%. I do understand it now. At first, I just was like, but definitely now I'm like,
maybe some gatekeeping is not the worst case.
Yeah, I mean, like,
everything, there's levels to everything, you know, and I think that it's important that tattooing is accessible to anyone who truly wants to be a tattoo artist. But also, what people have a massive misconception about being tattooer is that it is not easy. It is so, especially like we're talking about the saturation of how many tattooers there are in all these major cities and basically everywhere, but it's not easy to hold yourself up in this game and consistently do it. Tattooing, all the other shit aside, now that you gotta be a social media influencer and do all this other side shit, that aside, tattooing as an art form, as something that you technically do, will build you up and break you down so much, multiple times. For me, I've been broken down into fucking powder, and I've had to build myself back up again, because that's what tattooing does. It tests you, and you're always learning and you're always growing. And I do feel like the gatekeeping thing, there's pros and cons to it. I do feel like because there is all this access now, like of these DIY tattooers and stuff just out here doing it and putting it out on the internet, that's great. I think there are things that people can learn from that. There's a space for it. But for me, it's like respecting where
it comes from.
Yeah. And like for me, I came up in a time where you learn about the pillars of tattooing and the family pillars of tattooing, who, you know, if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be where we are now. And I was taught that you have to respect your elders, and
absolutely,
you know, and look, there are people out there who are elders in the industry who can suck my dick. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that you have to kiss ass to every old motherfucker in tattooing, but you have to give respect and you know, emotionally and spiritually pay dues by putting it into your work and
absolutely
that. But and just learning about the history of tattooing.
Absolutely.
Not a lot of people want to do that. I'm like, hey, do you know who Philip Blue is? No. Okay. I don't really know I don't know how we're going to be able to connect as tattooers.
Absolutely, no.
Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like the other day, like her came in, and that's our homie, innit? That's like our bestie, right? And she hasn't been to the new space before, and she instantly got drawn to the Lou print I have up there, right? Which I got signed at London Convention, and all the family signed it, and they put my name on it, and I was gassed. Oh. And that's why I'm so proud of it. It's framed in my station, do you know what I mean? But like, I cannot remember the last time I had like an artist or a guest artist come in here and be like, is that fucking Philip Lou print? is that your name signed by all the family? Do you know what I mean? And her came in the other day and it was the first thing she did. And it just got me so excited.
For sure.
I was like, yes, bitch, I got that. I got that on my own, you know?
Exactly.
And it's like to be able to connect about that old school like world of where we wouldn't be if that they hadn't been around, you know? Like I don't get to talk about that enough, and
right.
I miss that.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely. And no higher family than the Luz, you know? It's like,
like if we're going to talk about like people who have done stuff for the industry, like the Liu family like have done so much for the
forgers,
culture.
the pavers.
They paved the way, and they also wanted to connect the Western world of tattooing with indigenous tattooing and more tribalist tattooing around the world, and they did that. Like the Berber book they have, for example, like you cannot find many good books that document like real honest Berber tattooing, and it's like a direct communication where people have gone there and lived with these people and learned about the tattooing and their culture. But the Luz did that because it was just naturally something that they wanted to do as these like adventurer travelers, you know. And Felix, the dad of Philip, was so excited about wanting to learn to tattoo that he sought it out the right way, you know. And
absolutely,
that is just like so refreshing to me. So like any new tattooers who are trying to seek out more knowledge about the industry, look into the Liu family, watch their videos, buy their books. If you can ever get to Switzerland and have the honor to go and visit their studio, do it, because it is just so integral and important. It is like a mecca of tattooing, you know.
For sure. And I think knowing how much, oh goodness gracious,
it's the iPhone watch, baby.
I'm like, knowing how much, because I've never been there to their studio, but I've seen so many photos, obviously, when people go and visit and or when they post about it, and I'm like, knowing how much things that he's collected over the years and it's like a museum or a library of images and stories and books and sigils and, you know, everything. That is something that I feel like a lot of today's tattooers do not even, it feels clinical. Like there's no, like that excites you, it excites me just to even think about it. And like it excites her, you know. It's like definitely, I don't think I know there's plenty of tattooers that have no clue who he is, or, you know, like that I know in America today that I'm just like, but that feels like it's a different energy source. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, this beverage is sweet, but that ain't sugar, honey. That's some sucralose with some stevia. You know, like,
been synthesized.
You know, yeah, it's synthetic, exactly.
I just feel like artists as well are just depriving themselves of so much knowledge that could enrich them and that would have helped them learn how to be better tattooers. It's like, it's not like you have to know who these people are because if you're not a real tattooer. It's like you're just depriving yourself of the history of tattooing, which is so important. And if you want to do it like we want to do it, which is forever, you know, like, then learn about where you come from. Or like,
absolutely.
You know, like, it's important.
It's really, like, not to compare or anything, but like I'm really glad that I was able to spend time with Shanghai Kate before she passed, you know, over the years, because she has, man, some stories. And like just sitting there in her presence to hear the crazy shit as a woman tattooer in back in the day when it was unheard of, and like the shit she had to endure and put up with and like live through in Whittier, in New York, you know, all the stuff is like wild. And like I'm so grateful that I've sat for hours and just listened to her talk, and like she'll pull up acetates and love like, you know, like Sailor Jerry was in love with her, Jerry Collins was in love with her.
That's so
It's
sick.
or no, wait, was it Sailor Jerry? Was it Ed Hardy? It was Ed Hardy was in love with her. It wasn't Sailor
One of the
Jerry.
heavy
Sorry.
hitters,
It was
though.
one of those old school heavy hitters. Was like in love with her. She had all these love notes, and she like she's got some like, you know, but yeah, but you know, like that.
Yeah.
That's like as a female tattooer that's been there forever. Like just to be in her presence, that I just randomly could be there with her and whatnot. I don't know. It was just like how you were so excited to receive that. It was like,
Yeah.
I was just like, wow, like this is so special. So, you know.
I definitely felt that when I met Loretta specifically, because obviously, like, Philip Blue is the star child of tattooing, like, obviously.
Yeah.
But like his mother is always someone who had fascinated me so much. Like, she just seemed, even from just like watching, you know, like interviews and seeing pictures before I met her, I was like, I just want to talk to this woman. You know, this woman has so much stories and knowledge.
Yeah.
And it would like...
It's like even through a photo, you can feel the energy come off it, you know?
And I was lucky enough to be able to go there because I met this hand poker called Samantha, and she is, her partner is one of the Loos. They're a big family.
Yeah, for sure.
And so she used to come and do guest spots here. And I also have a friend called Gail who's from Switzerland, and I wanted to go out there. And I managed to...
I know Gail.
Yeah, you know Gail.
Yeah, Gail.
So I managed to wrangle a guest spot, a rinsing shop. And I was like blown away that they would ever accept me as a guest artist, you know, because that was another heavy hitter who's been in the industry for a long time and who I really respected. And I went there and I did this guest spot and it was amazing. I learned so much. And then my friend was like, do you want to come up? Do you want me to take you up to the Loos? I was like,
oh yeah,
yes please.
You were like, kind of crazy question is that?
Yeah. And we drove up to this like tiny little Swiss like mountainside village. It was like very quaint and very sweet. And it was the studio is it's like a bungalow vibe, you know, it's like a house. You go in there, there's like the kitchen kind of area or where the table is, like the heart of the like the shop. And then there's like all these little rooms, and there's the room where Philip tattoos in, but everything from floor to ceiling is like covered in artifacts. Like it reminded me a lot of Love Letters. You know how Norm just had like, everything he'd ever collected from everyone he'd ever respected in the industry was just like, and that's why I love
display.
shop. Yeah.
You could be in there looking at not the same thing twice for hours.
I would guest there for years, and every time I'd notice something new. Yeah. But it's not just turned up, it's been there. There's just so
like,
much to look
your
at.
eye just never went in that direction. Yeah.
And it's literally like the Lou's place and Love Letters, it was like tattoo museums, you know. They were these hubs of just like, the heart of them were these people who are so passionate about tattooing, and it's just every part of their personality is coated on the walls, you know. And I'm so grateful that I got to go there and meet Loretta and sit with her and talk to all of them, talk to Philip, and just learn about their day-to-day lives and just how their days flow and things like that. It's just very interesting to me. And same with Love Letters, I fell in love with it because the caliber of tattooing was so high.
Absolutely.
I was working with these heavy hitters where I was like, fuck, like this is the chance for me to level up. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But also, I fell in love with Norm instantly. Like I knew this person, like he felt like family instantly. And the reason why we got on off the bat so well is because we would just sit there in Love Letters all night and just talk about tattooing. And because he's had the same amount of tattoo time as you, like he's been in the game around about the same time as you, so he had all these crazy stories.
I think a few years more.
Oh yeah?
2, I think 2.
Oh wow.
I think it was like 2.
Yeah. Same kind of time.
Same kind of time, but yeah.
But he came up in this time, you know, where like, and again, like he had all these fucking wild stories of when he was just like a young rebel graffiti writer, just causing absolute mayhem in the streets. He was a piercer as well. There's loads of similarities between the three of us, and then him telling me these stories of, you know, of him like being influenced by grime and being able to work amongst all these legends who I also admired, and to have a friend who I also revered as this legend, but he loved me and we were best friends, and it was just like, it was the best time, and I obviously met the best people. Like, I met you, and I met her, Danielle, Anthony, the whole crew, you know, like, it really made me fall in love with tattooing again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and it was really special, like going and being around everybody at Love Letters, you know, you could tell how special and tight everybody was, and it was like a flow. And then when he left us, you know, it was like, but I feel like everybody that was in around that time pretty much all banded together and is still really tight because of that.
Absolutely.
Like, even more so.
I think physically as a shop, I knew that it wouldn't work after we lost him, because he is the heart and soul of it. Like, he's the glue, he's the oil to the machine, you know.
Absolutely.
But what he did do, it's making me emotional. But what he did do was connect so many people.
Absolutely. I know, look at us, we're all like sad, but
yeah.
But yeah, it was
I've never known someone to be able to connect the most different people and get them all to come together for the passion of tattooing. And yeah, I'm just gutted.
For sure.
But yeah, rest in peace, Norm. And I thank him every day. I just turned him really emotional really quick.
You're even getting me going. I didn't even know the guy.
He's here. He's here with all of us, do you know what I mean? And he will always be. Like, I got tattooed by her and Anthony last night. They did my neck. Shout out to them. They did the sickest job. Yeah. But like, I felt Norm, like, I was getting tattooed and like, it was a vibe. Everyone was just having a good time. It was just chill, like it usually is, you know what I mean? And I just felt like this real wave of emotion hit me because I felt his presence like so strongly. And that's one thing that I'm so grateful is that he is like our tattoo angel. Do you know what I mean? And I feel him everywhere with me, especially when I'm working. Do you know what I mean? And when I have those days where I'm like, you know, we have those days where we're tired and we can't be fucking bothered, or like I may not be feeling it, and I have him in my head going, "You're only as good as the last tattoo you did," or saying something stupid like that. You know what I mean? Or just remembering his fucking work ethic of him
like,
never
that dude
ever
never fucking rested. He would never say no to a tattoo. He would close every fucking convention he went to. They would turn the lights off on his ass.
They'd be like breaking down booths around him, and he'd just be there like, "Yeah, I'll be done soon, dude." It's like an hour later, it's just him and Sleeps are the only one in this like huge like air bunker convention size
Literally
room.
all the booths, all the tables would be broke down. Right? It would just be them, and there would be their booth and shit would be broke down, and it would just be like a ring light or some fucking, you know,
a bed and a gun.
Yeah, he would do it till the very end.
But like the best too, like I felt his presence. Like you said, you felt it yesterday. I felt it at Brighton, day one.
Oh yeah,
you want to know why? When Danielle and Lobs came in with the posters, and they painted him for their, like, he did that every fucking show, and I was like, yes.
That is one thing. Like, obviously, I feel him there in spirit, and he is the reason why. Like, as well, one of the main reasons why I push so hard with like just doing more and being the best I can be, and trying to like do new things within tattooing, but like. Working conventions with Norm was one of my favourite things in the world to do, like, and we worked Brighton together before I had the Femme Fatale room, because this is the second year that I've had it, but like we worked the convention together a couple times, and you know, Danielle would come over, and it was like this overseas family, and it was so special. So yeah, I feel his energy there so strongly, and I think it's really important for me next year to do something grand to honor him, because I don't want...
Well, you can count me in for next year already. If I'm all right to come back. All right, because that was such a vibe for sure. Yes. I'm still like whoa, that just came and went so fast. Yeah. You know, like, because it was like it was all energy. You know,
roll around again quick though, babe.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Bristol Tattoo Convention is another really fun one, and Brighton and Bristol are doing a like a collaboration convention. Like the two organizers are coming together to put this mega convention on this year.
Where's that going to be?
Oh fuck, I can't remember. I'll let you know though.
Okay.
I can't remember.
Maybe in the summer.
I think it's going to be later on in the year, kind of like autumn time.
Okay.
But hopefully I'll be involved in organising some kind of space for that as well. So if you're down, I'd love to have you back again this year. But you're 100% in next year for Feb, babe. It's not the same without you.
Yeah.
You know I've been hounding you for years.
You have. I'm sorry. Took me a minute.
It's all good.
But we're back. We're back to rolling about. Yeah.
I'm glad to have you back.
Likewise.
I'm really, really honoured that you would come on here and share your stories and just being so like brutally honest and open.
Right.
Like it's really refreshing and it's a beautiful thing. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. Yes.
Jen, come here and give us all a big hug.
We got you in the front.
Grace. I'm like, we're gonna break Grace and go from the far.
Shut up, I'm strong, man.
Big titties. Shit, we lost Mike.